Like on the tip.
Same spot. I don't care where the desks are. It's too loud. We'll see. Certainly, we're not helping each other. For sure, we'll Yes. That's not working. Because that's not your desk, that's not your spot. You're not with your desk, you're in the spot. I understand that was your desk, but you were
Por eso, más atrás.
Who else need a paperclip? Anybody else need a paperclip? Paperclip going once. Everybody else has a paperclip. So that was an example of me helping people get ready. Because I know people are late. I'm trying to get them to the area as quickly as possible. This was somebody's pencil that was on the floor. Looks like a really nice pencil. Like, I like this pencil. I wouldn't want to lose this pencil.
Put the face on the
I will. For now, it's behind my ear. Gentlemen, can I help you any further? It's a nice pencil. Mongol. Interesting.
Mango.
Mongol. Like the Mongols. Like the Khan?
Acorn.
Interesting.
Mongolia.
All right, so we are in a new bend. So today starts bend 2. This is the final bend of this unit. Normally do 3. But what we're trying this year is shortening some, extending others, mixing them up as when we do it. So today is a special day, and I hope it to be a magical day for you. And here I have an acorn, and I think that's an oak tree. Let's pretend it is. I hope you know that acorns turn into trees. So why am I showing you? Why am I, an oak tree? They turn into those giant oak trees. Start as little acorns.
Yeah, but they cannot turn into other tree.
Only an oak tree. Yeah. So why am I showing you a little seed and a giant tree? Talk to your partner.
Because ideas. Because ideas grow.
What would you do? Solve it. And with her partner.
Maybe sometimes right, like you think I feel like that, but
All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. So I heard a lot about like maybe ideas, maybe what we're writing about. The idea is this specifically, is that today you are going to choose what we call your seed idea. And you are going to develop that seed idea into a full-grown tree. So a publication over the course of the next 2 weeks. Okay, ending. Again, be conscious of what connections you're strengthening right now. Are you strengthening listening and paying attention and thinking? Are you strengthening being distracted and not paying attention? What are you choosing to do? What is your habit? What is your habit? And can you break your habit? Or can you strengthen your habit, depending on if it's a positive or negative thing for you in your learning area? And maybe for people around you too. So we take a seed and we develop it. The published piece is going to appear in a grade level book. So what that's going to look like is we're going to take the writings from A, B, C, D, E, and F, and then make 6 different books. Okay, so that means 3 of you will be, or like, well, no, divided by 6, what, 4-ish? 3 to 4 of you will be in each book, your published narrative, and that book will stay in this classroom and be part of our classroom library from here until eternity, okay, or whenever things cease to exist. So that is what you're looking for.
And there's a fire and it destroys.
Well, yes, that could also happen. But this is brick and very hard to do that. So that's what you're going to be publishing to. Your audience will be other fifth graders this year and throughout the years to come. Okay, that's who you are publishing to. And that will be each and every one of you. Okay, so I just wanted to give you that end game. Now, hopefully you have gone through this process before of looking through your reading notebook to pick an idea out that you would then develop into a published story. Give me a thumbs up if you've actually done that before. Okay, cool. So hopefully you have some strategies to do that. Why don't you have a conversation real quick, especially if you're someone who's never participated in this and your partner hasn't either. Try to find someone who has. What are some things, what does this process look like? What is the process of finding a seed to write about? What does that look like? What are the steps to it? Talk to someone sitting next to you. Find out.
One let's say the other one when you like the story in
Okay, 3, 2, 1, 0. I think the most important thing I was hearing is this idea of rereading. You need to reread your entries. You need to read the writing that you have done so far this year to find out that seed idea. Now, what I didn't hear and what's super important is it could just be a couple sentences from one entry that is different than the other ones. You're like, oh, that's a really good idea. I want to develop that teeny tiny thing, that thing I just briefly talked about, into a full-fledged paper. So this shouldn't be something that you're already quote unquote finished with, because you're going to be working on this for 2 weeks. So it could be just some passing thing you did real short, and you're like, oh, I think that would be a good idea. It should be powerful to you. It should be something that's going to capture your interest for the next 2 weeks. Okay, the next 2 weeks. So what you're going to do right now is you're going to read through your notebook, and you're going to find the page that contains your seed idea that you are going to develop into this published piece. And you are going to mark that page with the paperclip that I gave you, so you will have easy access to it. So start doing that work now, please. Remember, it doesn't have to even be a full entry. It could just be a little piece of it. I know some of us have been just writing little short ideas down in your writing notebook, where you've been doing your writing. Absolutely not. We're in personal narratives.
I hate personal narratives.
Personal narratives is exactly like writing fiction, except it's a true story about you. Other than that, it is exactly the same as writing fiction. It is exactly the same strategies. It is exactly the same. I said, other than the fact that it has to be from your life, writing personal narratives is exactly the same as writing fiction. You put the paper clip on the page in your writing notebook. That is where your seed idea is located. I'm just reading that stuff. Got it real quick. Okay.
But mine was not like Mr. Light,
I see like most people have found stuff. Maybe if you haven't found anything, it just means that you're going to have to take a brief second to kind of come up with something today. Asking if everybody needed one, I went and talked to everybody and asked. So you didn't hear, I will get you one. Actually, here, you can have mine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I already need one.
Huh?
I already need
What happens when I'm like going once, anybody else need one, and then no one says anything? And there's instructions on the board that say they give you a paper clip.
Really?
Yep.
And put them again.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, he did.
this is what we're doing today. So that was just the first part of it. Okay, that was the first part of it. Today you are doing something called flash drafting. Hopefully this is not the first time you've heard that term, but if it is, so be it. What happens is this. You will fill yourself up with this idea that you have. You know how it's going to start. You know when it was. You know how it starts. You're going to keep that idea in your head, that movie of what happened, and you are going to write. You are going to write. You are going to write. And you are going to write some more. The purpose of today is to get through your first draft, to get through pages and pages of writing. Front, back. I don't know how much you got to go, but you will try and get through your whole first draft today. It does not need to be perfect. In fact, it needs to be far from perfect. It might not even be very good, and that is okay. Because
I apologize for reacting like this.
You need to follow the process. You need to really think about the moment. You know when it started. You know how it started. You need to keep the movie in your head, and you need to write. And you need to write as much as you humanly can today. Okay? Like no messing around. No talking, nothing. This is the way you do this. This is the way you can make it magical. You're quiet. You're quiet. You are silent. The only sound being those pens flying down the page.
And maybe insects.
Number 2, you listen. You listen to the part of the story that is calling to you. You listen to the part of the story that's important. You replay that part again in your head. What's the heart of it? What's the most important thing about your story? How does it make it your story and not someone else's story? And you replay that over and over in your mind. What does that look like? What does that look like? How can I get it down on paper? And you try. You listen, you watch, you try to remember pieces and parts of that day, of that time, of that minute, of that second. You try and remember. And then you recreate it. It's not going to be perfect. You can't remember everything. I chose an impressionistic painting by Monet because it's not exactly what he saw. It's his impression of it. So we are not looking for exactly what happened because our memory is faulty anyway. We're looking for an impression of what happened. So you don't have to remember every little thing that was said or done. You can create some of that yourself. The idea is getting everything down on the page today so that you have stuff to work with for the next 2 weeks of publishing and working on it and making it better and better and better. Put your hand down, please. And so that is what your day looks like today. At the end of it, we will get in 4 groups, and I will pick one person from each group to read their story out loud to those groups so they can hear that story that was done today. So those are going to be the 4 books. Your independent time, you write.
I know how you do that.
Okay.
Copy,
You
paste,
write.
copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Right, that's copy, paste, copy, right.
So pick a way to start. Some of you may want to see like a pretend piece of paper in your head and you're just kind of writing it out. How is that going to begin? Maybe you're just going to rehearse it in your head. What is that opening part going to be? What is it going to be? What's it going to be? Pick the way that you prepare yourself to write and do that now. And when you feel like you are ready to write, get to your spot and start to work. But this is not a time for talking. This is a time for thinking and for writing. Let's go. So when you leave here, you're saying you're ready to write. So I will see you sit down and start to write. Don't have an idea, stay here.
that I choose a story, but they have a story that they want to start. And they started. Why don't you use paper?
Oh, sorry, I didn't think I thought it was obvious. You are writing your draft on loose leaf paper. This loose leaf paper goes into your writing folder. You keep it in your writing folder. Because you're gonna write a ton today. I just said that, Martin. This is for you write your draft. No, I asked you to have both on your desk.
Oh, I thought that one paper can.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know I said to please talk as much as you want. This is serious business. Treat it as such.
Oh, that paper can. I thought you were referring to this. I thought you were saying this with the paper.
All right, so what's the struggle? What's the struggle? What idea? You don't have any ideas. What have you written about so far?
I was reading about the time that I was a baby and I cut my.
You cut your head?
Oh, yeah.
How old were you?
Like 5.
Like 5. And what happened? Did you go to the hospital or something? That's pretty fascinating. That is an interesting story. I would love to see that play out. Cool. What are you guys writing? What are you stuck with?
Wait, no, I know. So we're choosing a story or we're writing a new one because I'm confused with this. We're writing a new one.
I said if you didn't have any ideas you wanted to explore that you've written about so far, you could do a new one.
So the paper is for
Huh? You are writing your draft on these pieces of paper. You are not writing in your writing notebook. And now I'm super concerned about you laying down. That you didn't know that.
No, yeah, I know. If we already have to go, we have to write it down there.
What, like copy? You never copy, ever. You never copy what you have written before until you are publishing on a computer. You are coming from scratch. If you are picking an entry that is already developed, you are failing at this. You should pick something that you have just a powerful idea and write and try and develop it. Okay? You are not copying anything. You are writing from scratch in your head. Rewrite it, but do not look at it. Let's go. So, more likely it's place else in South America. Besides lightning can strike 50 miles per storm, 50 kilometers. What I'm super confused about right now, and this has nothing to do with the lightning strike or the thunder. I asked you to not leave that area until you had something to write about. I see a lot of people who haven't written anything. And it has nothing to do with the lightning strike, because that was about 2 minutes after I told you you could leave. So now I feel like you're not treating this with the proper respect that you should be treating it with. You need to be writing. And you weren't writing before the lightning strike. So if you are having problems with what to write about, get back to the wood so I can help you. But if you are sitting there, it means you know exactly what you're writing about, so start it. And treat this with respect. This sacred time that you have to do this stuff. Sacred.
How you could describe it. I challenge you. You should be taking events from your life that don't bore you. Does life force you? So, using strategies to create effective fiction and effective prose. What can't you think of that? You're having a way of writing down, thinking about all these different plot lines that you have to come to. Or you're just really writing a fictional story about yourself, but it happens to be true. This is fiction. It just happens to be true. Good writing and strategies. Good writing and strategies. It's not good writing.
I like offering fiction. Is making a story.
Writing is about strategy. You have to learn how to effectively communicate.
And at this point, if you're worried about your handwriting, pick up the speed. This is not, you're not publishing this today. Let's go. This is fast and furious. It's not slow and perfect. Your handwriting does not matter today. Getting your whole idea out matters today. Never erase the cross out. So erasing takes time. Just cross it out. You don't know a word in English, write it in Spanish and circle. You're not publishing today. Let's go. When you erase, it takes time. Cross it out. Just one line through it. It also takes away a mistake. It could be a brilliant idea that you figure out later. Don't erase.
is the sun.
How much dialogue is happening?
I didn't talk. I didn't talk.
You want to talk to the whole moment?
Wait, we're just random. What is it?
I guess I would read through it and see if I can get some. Do you have 10 minutes or 5 minutes? You can always make a time when I have to finish.
You do not staple your draft, ever. And your draft is in your writing folder. Okay. Your writing folder. How is this story any different than someone else being that way? Do you have thinking? Diaries? Do you have descriptions? Do you have actions? You always move. All right, you have one last minute. Push yourself.
don't understand what's wrong about spelling and Spanish. Why do you think you all need other things than that? Because you're so used to things like that.
It's AM working like it midtime. Midtime.
Like you?
Midtime.
Yeah. The normal thing. You should have answered that question for girl now. You want to find out later.
All right, in this corner over here, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Over there, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. In that corner back there, 1 through 6. And that corner over there, 7 through 12. Let's go. All right, all people who are going to share.
Just bring the paper.
Just bring your paper, yep. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Be a good audience. Grade people who are presenting.
So 7
There. 7 o'clock. Let's go. Hustle. Here. Oh, no. 7 o'clock. Right where you were. I think, right? No, you're 18 before you're 7. Yeah, you're right there. Lisa, you're. Go, get the audience. Where are you supposed to be? You're over there. You're over there. You're listening to you. All right, let's start. I'm sorry, but I didn't think it was clear enough. The 4 of you are listening to Rosie.
You shouldn't go ahead. You're waiting for them.
You're over here. Cristobal is reading his piece. Let's go. Be an audience. Engage them. How about this? Try this. So right now, read the piece. Right now,